Well, Uli, with me I have the General Secretary of the Botswana Council of Churches, Mr. Gabriel Gauteng, and they spent some time going out to the voting stations in some areas of Gauteng, making their observations. He said to me earlier, it seems as if during this election there are more observer missions than ever before, and of course they have something to say about some of the concerns that have been raised by ordinary South Africans, but it can also compare the strength of South Africa's electoral system to that of their own. Let's bring him into the conversation now. Reverend Gauteng, thank you so much for joining us. So just tell us briefly, what have been some of your general observations while you were out at the voting stations, and what raised concern for you?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. We've been here for the last few days and we have made our own observation. Firstly, I want to congratulate the people of South Africa for going all out in good numbers to participate in these elections and ensuring that they exercise their democratic right and indeed constitutional right. And as we are going out to do our own mission observations, there are quite a number of factors that we took into consideration. Firstly, the IEC seemed to have been ready in terms of putting out resources, although in some instances these resources were not enough to fully supplement the demands of the people during the period. For example,
give me some specifics of exactly what caught your attention.
For example, we found at one electoral station where there was insufficient human resource. One officer who was checking the ballots had to go out and the toilet was quite a distance and people had to wait and they were it rendered themselves impatient. Secondly, the IEC seemed not to have been fully prepared for the weather condition in South Africa, because there were some instances where we found that it was raining and people were waiting in queues, and that alone disrupted the electoral process. Lastly, which is key to this, was that the lighting system was not prepared well in time, and that alone gave an opportunity to the compromise of the electoral process. So those and other factors, I think, needed to have been one of the factors that were balance checked before the process itself started.
But what about the mechanisms to safeguard the integrity of the election and the result? How does that compare, based on what you've seen, to what you've experienced in your own country, Botswana?
Well, I think firstly, South Africa is fairly a young democracy compared to my democracy in Botswana. But I can tell you there are factors that, as Botswana, we have to learn from South Africa. The way the results turnover is being submitted to this center, the counting process itself is quite impressive, and I want to also speak to the preparations in terms of how people are prepared to count, to transmit, and to ensure that the results are submitted in a credible manner. Lastly, I think one area that I want to speak to, which South Africa needs to pay attention to, is the question that has been raised by some people in other spheres, and that is the issue of double voting. The issue of double voting is made possible by what South Africa has to pay attention to, where a voter is allowed to vote at any station they find themselves in, though they may not be given the opportunity to vote at provincial level, but at national level. That alone gives an opportunity for double voting, and South Africa has to make sure they check that against ensuring that the systems are credible.
Thank you so much. That's Reverend Gauteng from the Council of Churches in Botswana. I was due to speak to another gentleman from the Mozambican Council of Churches. He also raised a concern about the South Africans being able to vote in any area, but they're due to submit their final report just a few days from now. For now, it's back to you.